Hi everyone, and welcome to your first vote workshop in collaboration with the League of Women Voters of San Diego. My name is Brynn, and I'm so excited to be giving this workshop today and show you what I've been working on for the last couple of months. Before I begin, I just first want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters of San Diego for their support and mentorship throughout this project. It truly would not have been able to come to where it is today without their help, and I'm deeply grateful for all that they have learned. So about me, I am a rising freshman attending Harvard this fall, and I am a recent CCA graduate. I've been interested in politics and civic literacy for a while now, and this project was birthed out of my own journey navigating first-time voter registration, and I'm excited to share what I've learned with everyone. So we're going to keep this part pretty short since I do want to get to the rest of the toolkit, but let's take a look at a couple of myths that trip up first-time voters. So the first myth is that you have to wait until you're 18 to do anything voting related. And this is actually not true. You can pre-register if you're 16 or 17, which means you will automatically be registered the minute you turn 18. Another myth is that you need a California ID or social security number to register to vote. You actually can register without either of these. You would just be assigned a unique identifier to validate your registration. And finally, the last myth is that if your name isn't on the list at your polling place, you can't vote. So conditional voting is also an option, and you always have a right to a provisional ballot. So no poll worker can legally turn you away. But we'll cover these more in depth in some later slides. So demystifying a ballot. I think, especially as a first-time voter, a recent high school graduate, looking at a ballot can be one of the most intimidating things. So let's walk through one super quickly. At the top of your ballot, you'll typically see high-profile races, such as president, governor, your congressman, and later on, more local offices, including school boards, judicial positions, and ballot measures. The second half is where your vote would actually carry the most weight since it's a local election and statistically less individuals come to vote in these. Your ballot may also include some nonpartisan races like judicial seats where candidates do not technically run under a party label. And in California, a ballot may also include propositions and measures, which are basically yes-no questions on laws, funding, or policy rather than a race between actual candidates. So local versus national, why local affects more than you think. A lot of first-time voters tend to think with all the press and media around these high-profile national races that the federal races are the most important thing to their everyday lives. But your local elections have a greater influence than you think, especially since they cover issues like school funding, housing policy, and your local infrastructure. Here is a quick reference guide to who controls what, especially around San Diego County. And I think this is a great reference for any young voter looking to look very quickly at what issues the positions that they're voting on can actually affect. As you can see, San Diego's mayor and city council covers issues like potholes, local parks, zoning decisions, and the city budget. Something to note for all San Diegans is that San Diego actually uses a strong mayor system, which means the mayor is not a ceremonial role, but controls an almost $4 billion budget and daily city operations. Public health policy, county jails, and social services and election administrations goes under the County Board of Supervisors. And furthermore, educational institutions like City College, Mesa College, and Miramar College are governed by the Community College District Board of Trustees. So if next year or in coming years you're looking to go to community college, this is a position where a student vote might be very important. And moving on to rent control, state taxes, UC/CSU funding, and the state minimum wage, for any of my student workers out there, that would be your state assembly member and state senator. And finally, more overbranching issues and larger issues like federal taxes, military policy, immigration, and Medicare would fall under your House representative or any of those federal high-profile races that we talked about before. So researching candidates without getting overwhelmed. Everyone's been on social media, everyone has heard, I think, the rise of the term fake news. So I wanted to take a second and go over some great nonpartisan and informative sources that might help you as a young voter find some good information about the candidates that you're voting for. Vote 411 from the League of the Women Voters is a great nonpartisan resource to locate any candidates relevant to your ballot. If you really want to dive specifically into certain candidates, finding a personal website for a candidate's campaign may also be great to determine an individual stance on topics. For any San Diegans, the KPBS Voter Hub is also very helpful, but I would recommend that you continue to check that website for updates as the election cycle progresses. Furthermore, if you're looking to see any sort of forum, the League of Women Voters also hosts and videotapes candidate forums which are available on their YouTube channel. For now, take 2 minutes to research a candidate and share it with someone around you. Okay, moving on to researching ballot measures. I think it's especially true that for ballot measures especially, you're going to find a lot of information out on there, and luckily the League of Women Voters has put together an easy voter guide, which is a great resource for simplifying a lot of the language and positions that a lot of these ballot measures take, and the Cal Matters voter guide is super great as well. So now, I would like you to take 2 minutes to research a ballot measure and share with someone around you. Perfect. So I'm glad everyone took some time to research their candidates and a ballot measure, and hopefully you learned something about an issue that's coming up in your local election. So let's move on to reading arguments for and against. Every ballot measure in your voter information guide will include an argument in favor and an argument against, capped at around 300 words. These look official, but when you're reading these, make sure to understand that they are written by advocates trying to persuade you and not neutral analysts. Make sure you look at them crucially, look at who signed each agreement. A yes argument that's supported by teachers, firefighters, and doctors might tell you something different versus one signed mainly by a single industry or corporation. So make sure to pay attention to which claims go unrebutted by each side. When evaluating a ballot measure, here's a checklist that might be helpful in understanding what ballot measure you might want to vote for, especially in terms of fiscal impact. A $5 million one-time payment is different than $5 million every year. Additionally, you should consider whether this ballot measure would constitute a statute or a constitutional amendment, since amendments are much harder to undo. When you read arguments for and against, remember to look at who signed them and then read the rebuttals. The rebuttals might offer a great counterpoint to your current argument. Additionally, when you're looking at ballot measures, you might want to look at the top campaign donors, since they are individuals who either support the ballot measure or are most likely to benefit from them. The California Secretary of State also publishes a voter information guide, which is a great resource and will be available in September for the upcoming election. So, trusted nonpartisan tools, your research toolkit. We've gone over some of these links already, but I will go through them super quickly. The League of Women Voters Easy Voter Guide is a great resource. I would highly recommend any young voter to look at that as their first resource. It definitely helped me out a lot when I was voting in the recent primaries. And additionally, I've also found the League's video talks to be super helpful. Remember, they also have the candidate forums as well. But they will have a video talk covering the pros and cons of all local, county, state ballot measures beginning on September 22nd, available to their YouTube channel. And some other research tools that might be helpful are Vote 411, Power Search, the official California Secretary of State voter guide, and the Cal Matters voter guide. And all of these are hyperlinked onto the slides, so if anyone is looking for these links later, just look at the slide PDF and they should be linked onto there. So action time. As students, let's figure out if you're eligible. This is relatively straightforward. You can register to vote in California if you are a U.S. citizen and California resident, you are 18 years or older on election day, you are not currently serving a state or federal prison term for the conviction of a felony, and you are not found mentally incompetent to vote by court. If you're 16 or 17, you can actually pre-register to vote today. I would highly recommend it. I wish I did it. I just didn't realize that was an option when I turned 16 and I went to go get my driver's license. But many of my friends have said that it makes it a lot easier, and it's one less thing to check off as soon as you turn 18. One critical detail though, on the registration form, you must check that you are a US citizen if you are one, otherwise your registration may be invalidated. So, what you'll need and how to register. Before you register to vote, you should have these items ready: your California driver's license or your state ID number, or the last 4 digits of your security number, social security number, if you don't have a California ID. And if you have neither of these, don't worry, you can still be assigned a unique identifier to validate your registration. You'll also need your current California address, date of birth, and email. And in terms of methods of voting registration, online is definitely the fastest. All you need is your computer. You should go to registertovote.ca.gov. By mail or in person, you can fill out the National Mail Voter Registration Form, which is available at most libraries, like this one, post offices, DMV offices, and several government buildings. All you need to do is sign it and mail it in. At the DMV, the California Motor Voter Program automatically registers you when you complete a driver's license, ID, or address change transaction unless you automatically opt out of it. And finally, if you've missed the deadline to vote, or if you had a birthday and you were unable to register to vote to your election, same-day and conditional registration lets you register and vote at your county election offices or any vote center, even if it's on election day, up until around 8 p.m. So definitely go look at that if you're on the fence about voting. You don't need to fill out a registration sheet very far ahead in advance. Just go in, hit the conditional registration, and make sure to get your vote in. And in terms of verifying your registration, this is something very important, especially if you're looking to move or you want to change something on your registration, such as your party preference, your name, or your address. You should always look at this since it's one of the things most likely to cause a problem on election day. So I would also verify your registration every time you register or re-register in a different area, anytime you move, after any DMV transaction, and before an election, since registrations can be affected by data entry errors or processing delays, and you want to catch these problems early instead of at the polls itself. And additionally, if something's wrong, it's possible for you to re-register and correct that information before Election Day. And re-registration won't hurt your existing registration, it will just update that information in the system. So in terms of moving, I know, especially as high schoolers, maybe some of you are looking to go out of state, maybe for either college or a job after you've graduated from high school. So one key thing to know is that you must re-register anytime you move within or outside your county, change your party preference, and your name. The good news is that if you update your address with the DMV, your voter registration often updates automatically. However, if this move is temporary, say you're going to summer camp or you're working an internship in another city for about a month or so, you can keep using your permanent home address for voting purposes. But if you are looking to go to college, you do have a choice in where you register and how that impacts how you'll receive your ballot. You do need to choose one, though. You should not vote in 2 elections. You could potentially get charged with a felony. But through the next slide, we'll walk you through how to make that decision and what you would give up either way. So registering in San Diego versus your new state of residence. For San Diego, it's pretty simple to stay registered, especially if you've already registered before you've gone to college. First, I would confirm that your status is active on sdvote.org. And after that, make sure to update your mailing address, not your registration address, so your ballot would actually reach your dorm, meaning it wouldn't go back to where you previously lived. Finally, I would return your ballot to any drop box or vote center in San Diego County or a prepaid envelope to make sure your ballot is in before Election Day. If you choose to register in your new state of residence, I would consider this option if your college's local elections, such as your city council and your school board, directly affects your daily life. Maybe you're a student commuting from your apartment to college every day, and you want to have a say in how the transportation or your subway system works in your commute. That would be a reason why you might want to vote in your new state of residence. Registering to vote in another city should not affect FAFSA dependent status, your financial aid, or tuition residency, since they're separate legal questions from your voting status. If you are looking to go out of state for any reason post-high school, I would look at vote.gov for more information. If you go down there, you can look for any state within the United States, and they'll provide you with links and instructions on how to register. Furthermore, if you're looking for a more in-depth explanation of any of the content we've covered so far, on the League of Women Voters San Diego website, under the Get Informed section, there's a First Vote Toolkit, and it has a much more in-depth explanation for anyone looking for more information on that. So one thing to emphasize is that you can only vote once. Being registered in 2 places isn't automatically illegal, but as a voter, you should actively try to make sure that you do not maintain 2 registrations, as it can be very, very confusing. Voting in 2 places in the same election is absolutely illegal, though. Intentionally voting by mail in person or voting in 2 different states is double voting, and depending on the circumstances, can be prosecuted as a felony. So I know some students may think that federal races are a loophole because some of the candidates may differ by state, but some of the races, like especially president, may appear on every ballot no matter where you're located, so casting one in 2 jurisdictions can still be voter fraud. So the bottom line, only vote once. And that is pretty much the full walkthrough in terms of eligibility, registration methods, verifying your status, and what changes if you're heading to college. We also covered how to read and evaluate ballot measures and what exactly to expect on Election Day. If you would like to scan the QR code to access the full digital vote toolkit, the toolkit that we've made covers multiple one-pagers that can be printed and taken with you to the election center. I know when I was voting in my first elections, I was thinking, oh, it might be really great to have a one-page document for the positions I'm voting on, or how to evaluate ballot measures, so I've put that together as a resource for any students. And the video will also be updated onto the First Vote Toolkit right after this. But yes, just to wrap up, we have some key deadlines to remember. Standard registration typically closes 15 days before Election Day. 14 days or closer to the Election Day, you will have to sign up for same day or conditional voting. And that runs through 8 p.m. on Election Day, so go to your local vote center and ask. It's also something that's easily accessible online if you do need that information earlier. And when you're doing mail-in ballots, I would recommend you to postmark them at least 5 days early, since it may take time to process through election season where there is a large volume of mail. Do you have any questions? Perfect. I've also prepared a little Kahoot to test everyone's comprehension from this slideshow. So I will bring that up now. If you would like to use your phone and go to kahoot.com/join, you should be able to join the Kahoot. The QR code is also available if anyone would like to scan that. But hopefully this can be a good kind of exit ticket check or comprehension resource for any teachers. This also is linked to the slide in case anyone needs it. I won't answer the questions, but everyone else in the room can. Here, I'll click a wrong answer. Look at that, you're first.
Yeah.
rocking it.
It's all because of her program.
I was able to get it on quicker, which is great.
Yay. Four more questions left. I figured this question was good because at least if they get it wrong, they'll know what the right answer is. So it's actually voter status.
Oh, it's actually.
So I think ideally if I was presenting this in like a classroom with students, I would actually go to this website, like copy paste it in the browser and take it as an opportunity to show them where you can actually check your voter registration, because that's super important, especially if you're updating information. But yeah, this was like kind of my trick question. Okay, 3 more left. It also comes with like funky music, but I'm trying not to play it too loud in case it picks up on the microphone. Perfect. Wow, movement in the leaderboard. So it actually is 29 days, not 60. I was actually researching this when I was trying to register to vote because my birthday was only a couple days before the primary, and I thought it was much longer, like 60 days, but it actually was only 29 days. Almost done. Double points here, so. But that is all the content I had for today. Thank you so much for coming and listening to my workshop. And again, thank you to the League of Women Voters San Diego for all their support and mentorship throughout the summer. I felt like I really grew a lot as someone who is very civically minded, but also in terms of putting this project together and doing my own research. So very big thank you to Miss Andrews, Miss Worth, and the League for their help. Yes. Thank you.